Hey friends, it's Nadia here. Happy Monday. Live from my kitchen counter, trying to fit in a little bit of lunch in between work meetings and going to pick up my kids from school. I wanted to share something that I was interacting with over the weekend, and I think this is going to be really relevant, especially for anyone that's doing hiring right now. So I was reading a lot of posts around the job market right now and the need for resilience, the idea that there's a lot of candidates applying for a lot of positions. Oftentimes people aren't even hearing back about whether or not were successful in any way. They feel like they're sending applications into a black hole, very little feedback coming back. And I really thought about this. So I do have a hiring guide that's available for sale, and I want to share some of the things that are in there just really briefly, because I think that this could help both hiring managers and also really improve the experience of people who are out there looking to find their next step in the workforce. The first is around how you can actually automate your replies. Make sure that when someone has applied, they're getting a response back that lets them know in what period of time you're going to be considering the applications, and makes it clear whether or not they're going to hear back from you. So I get that for some companies and firms and businesses, organizations, that there might not be the capacity to reply back to every single person that applies. So at least have an automated message that lets people know that. Me personally, I always reply back to every single person who applies. I also make it a habit of every person that I will talk to, even just for an initial conversation that I think is an interesting match for my company or for a position I'm hiring for. If they don't get that position or they're not going to move to the next stages, they always hear from me letting them know that. And I know a lot of people are talking right now about this idea of how many times will you hear the no before you hear the yes, that idea of perseverance, just keep going, don't give up. And I want to note, though, that feeling of being rejected is a real one, and it can hit you really deep. The idea that I wasn't good enough, I didn't stand up amongst the other candidates, and I'm not even sure what I could have done to have been better. And that can create a loop that is not necessarily that helpful for people, especially when they're in the process of looking for jobs. And so in that situation, I'd like to ask hiring managers to consider doing two things. First is, anytime you're telling somebody that they didn't move forward, to actually think about framing that as alignment rather than as rejection. So it's, you didn't get the position because you weren't the best fit, but you can actually phrase it in a way that helps the other person understand why that might be. So I like to say, for example, that right now you are not the person who is the best aligned for what we most need in the company, but here are the things that really stood out to me that I think you did well. And that also can help redirect somebody. So if they've got a great set of skills or talents, but maybe they just weren't the right person for the position you're hiring for, that's okay. That kind of feedback can be so valuable, and it can help redirect them towards the positions that they might be incredibly well suited for. And while I know that it's not your responsibility as a hiring manager to take on that burden, it's not mine either. I just think that it's best practice. It really helps us to make sure that talent is being directed in the best possible ways, that people are not giving up, and that we're seeing really healthy, positive incentive-based hiring practices right now in all directions. Anyway, there's a lot more in my hiring and retention guide on the actual process that I use to hire my teams, who have been exceptionally wonderful to work with. And so I encourage you to check it out. If any of this resonated with you, go ahead, check out the guide. You can find it at bloom360workplace.com under our offerings. Thanks for listening.